I'm not. I know if you see the quarterback play in the league right now, I know I'm capable of doing better than that.
Shedeur Sanders, son of Hall of Famer Deion Primetime Sanders, just fired back at Rex Ryan, and he didn't hold back one bit. His message? If you come for the king, you better not miss. But here's the real question. Can he actually back up all that talk? Or is he about to drag his dad's legendary name through the mud? Let's get into it. The whole sports world caught fire over this one, and it wasn't because of a game-winning throw or a brutal hit. Nah, the chaos started with one of the most explosive rants ever seen on live TV. Right there on ESPN's Get Up, Rex Ryan leaned forward in his chair, eyes locked on the camera, and unloaded on 22-year-old rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders, a kid who hasn't even played a single regular season snap in the NFL yet. The clip spread like wildfire. Within hours, it was everywhere. Millions of views, endless retweets, and nonstop chatter on sports talk pages. Some fans cheered Rex on, saying he was just keeping it real, while others called him out for picking on someone who hadn't even been given a shot yet. Seriously, a 62-year-old former coach taking aim at a rookie? People couldn't believe it. But this wasn't just another loud TV moment. This one hit deep, because Rex wasn't going after just any rookie. He was going after Shedeur Sanders, son of Deion Sanders, one of the most electrifying and respected names in sports history.
This kid talks, he runs his mouth like I could be a starting quarterback with his arms crossed like this. Get your in the front row and study and do all that. If I know, the whole league knows. Quit being an embarrassment that way. You got the talent to be the quarterback. You should be embarrassed that you're not the quarterback now.
When you carry the Sanders name, every word cuts sharper. Every mistake hits harder, and Rex knew exactly what he was doing. See, Rex Ryan's built his whole post-coaching career on being brash, unfiltered, and wild on air. He's the same guy who led the Jets to back-to-back AFC championship games back in 2009 and 2010, coached the Bills, and has never met a microphone he didn't love. But even for him, this jab was colder than usual, dripping with shade, pride, and accusations that Shedeur was all hype with no grind. And to make things worse, the timing couldn't have been messier. The Browns had just fallen to a rough 1-3 start in the 2025 season, and their quarterback room looked like a full-blown circus. Joe Flacco was back in town but barely holding it together. Rookie Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma was waiting in the shadows, and Shedeur, the player everyone was hyping, now found himself in the crosshairs of one of football's loudest critics. Many people once thought Shedeur Sanders was destined to be a top 10 draft pick. But fast forward to now, and he's sitting buried at QB3 on the Browns' depth chart. To critics like Rex Ryan, that fall from grace says it all. Cameras even caught him during a brutal blowout loss, standing on the sideline with his arms crossed, looking totally checked out. A snapshot that went viral and became the go-to evidence for everyone calling him lazy or entitled.
Because I think, and TJ, you correct me if I'm wrong, Bill Belichick would stand in front of his team, and I don't care if you don't have 6 Super Bowls, you should coach like you have 6 Super Bowls or plan to. And I would stand up in front of the room.
Rex Ryan didn't waste a second using that moment as fuel for his fiery rant. On Get Up, he painted Shedeur as a kid who talks more than he works, someone writing his father's name instead of earning his own shine. But here's what made this particular explosion hit so hard. It wasn't random. This fire had been building for weeks, maybe months. See, back in late September, Shedeur appeared on ESPN Cleveland and made comments that split the sports world in half. To some, it sounded like confidence. Bold, fearless energy from a young star raised by Deion Primetime Sanders himself. But to others, it came off as straight arrogance, a rookie acting like he'd already made it before even taking an NFL snap. Fans were debating nonstop, and analysts were foaming at the mouth trying to spin every word he said. Rex Ryan? He clearly sided with the haters. His rant wasn't just about one interview. It was a blow-up that had been brewing behind the scenes for months. Scouts and insiders had whispered for ages that Shedeur might be too Hollywood, too protected, or too confident for his own good. When Rex called him an embarrassment, it wasn't random. It was the loudest echo yet of a storyline that had been stalking Shedeur since draft day. And that's the wild part.
Adam Schefter reported, and some other networks are starting to report that this was his response to Rex Ryan saying what he said on the Sunday show.
Because Shedeur was never supposed to be a fifth-round pick. Just a year ago, analysts had him locked inside the top 10. They called him a natural leader, calm under pressure, with pinpoint accuracy and the kind of poise teams dream about in a franchise quarterback. At Jackson State, he balled out under his dad's watch, leading the Tigers to back-to-back SWAC championships like it was nothing. After tearing it up at Colorado, throwing for over 3,200 yards and 27 touchdowns in his final season, Shedeur Sanders looked like a surefire NFL star. He did all that while running for his life behind one of the most beat-up offensive lines in college football. On paper, the man's resume sparkled. But when draft season hit, the shine started to fade, and fast. That's when the whispers began. NFL insiders started leaking stories about his team interviews. And they weren't pretty. One anonymous coach told NFL Network's Tom Pelissero it was the worst formal interview I've ever been in my life, describing Shedeur as entitled, defensive, and unwilling to take accountability. Brutal words for a kid who hadn't even touched an NFL field yet. Then came the infamous Giants story. During his visit to New York, team coaches reportedly planted a few mistakes in the playbook, a sneaky test to see which prospects would catch them. Shedeur didn't. And when they called him out, he allegedly snapped, not at himself, but at the team, supposedly telling them the test was beneath him. That right there became fuel for critics who'd been dying to say he had an ego problem. The next hit came from film study reports. Sure, his college stats looked elite, but scouts said the tape told a messier story. They pointed out his bad habit of holding the ball too long, chasing highlight throws instead of making smart ones. Yeah, the O-line at Colorado was awful, but they said some of those 94 sacks over 2 seasons were on him. That number became a talking point. 94 sacks? What's he thinking out there? And it stuck. And then came the final storm cloud. What executives started calling the Sanders family circus. Just like his dad, Shedeur had swagger. Expensive watches, flashy cars, designer fits, and quotes about changing the culture wherever he went. He didn't hide from the spotlight, he owned it. But some teams hated that. One anonymous executive straight up told USA Today, teams didn't want to be part of the Sanders family circus. Ouch. That one sentence basically tanked his first-round dream. So when draft night rolled around, it was a free fall. Teams that once saw him as a top 10 pick kept passing again and again. By the time the Cleveland Browns grabbed him in the 5th round, pick 143, it didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like a gamble. Cleveland wasn't desperate either. They already had veteran Joe Flacco, a Super Bowl MVP, running it back for one more year. Plus, they'd just drafted Dylan Gabriel, the dual-threat kid out of Oklahoma, in the 4th round. When training camp wrapped up, Shedeur found himself sitting behind both of them, locked in as quarterback 3, with no clear path to playing time. So when Rex Ryan heard Shedeur talking big, saying he could outplay current NFL starters, it hit a nerve. Hard. For Rex, a guy raised in locker rooms where rookies carried helmets, kept quiet, and earned every inch of respect, that kind of talk wasn't just confidence. It was straight-up disrespect. To him, a kid with 0 pro snaps bragging on air was the ultimate no-no, and he was ready to call it out loud and clear. That's why Rex Ryan's rant hit like a freight train. It wasn't just about Shedeur's body language on the sideline, arms crossed and face blank. It was about every single storyline that had been building for months, talk of entitlement, questions about maturity, and hype without results, all colliding at once with Shedeur's own bold words. Fans instantly split into 2 camps. On one side were the Ryan defenders, saying somebody had to put Shedeur in check, that the NFL isn't college and no amount of swagger can buy you respect. They said Rex was doing what old school coaches have always done, humbling a young star before the league does it for him. But on the other side, critics were furious. They saw it as a cheap shot, a 62-year-old analyst using a national platform to tear down a 22-year-old who hadn't even played a real game yet. They accused Rex of punching down, of making it personal, and dragging the kid's name for clicks. And as the online storm grew louder, one thing became obvious. this feud wasn't dying anytime soon. Because when you come for the Sanders family, you better be ready for a response. And oh, there was one coming. Reports say Shedeur's own mother was about to jump in and take things up another level, turning this TV rant into a full-on family showdown. The NFL community went wild watching it all unfold. When Rex Ryan ripped into Shedeur Sanders on live TV, it instantly became the biggest sports story of the week. The kind of clip that dominates every feed, every group chat, every sports bar conversation. That moment where Rex leaned forward, shaking his head, his voice rising as he barked, "Quit being an embarrassment." It was everywhere within minutes. Social media exploded. On X, formerly Twitter, the reactions were split right down the middle. Some fans backed Rex hard, saying he said what every frustrated Browns fan was already thinking, that Shedeur's sideline vibe screamed disengaged instead of hungry rookie. They said he looked more like a fed-up veteran than a young player fighting for his spot. But others clapped back, calling Ryan's rant out of line. They argued it was unfair, cruel even, that he was publicly blasting a rookie who hadn't been given a real chance to prove himself in Cleveland's chaotic quarterback rotation. It wasn't just random fans either. Former NFL players and insiders jumped into the mix. Some defended Rex, saying tough love is part of the game. Others called it unnecessary and old-fashioned, a cheap way to stay relevant in the age of hot takes. Even the ESPN panel couldn't agree. When the cameras cut back to the studio, one analyst pushed back hard, saying Rex went too far, that instead of tough love, it felt like public humiliation. The room was tense, the internet was raging, and the Sanders family was just getting started. Rex Ryan wasn't backing down. He doubled down. He made it crystal clear that Shedeur Sanders' problem wasn't lack of opportunity. It was his attitude. Rex claimed this wasn't just his personal opinion either. He said it was something everyone in the league already knows. That line hit like dynamite. Because if it was true, it meant Shedeur's reputation had already taken a major hit behind closed doors, long before he ever touched an NFL field. And in the NFL, perception can crush a career faster than a bad stat line. That's what made this so brutal. The Browns were already limping through a rough 1-3 start. Fans were begging for a savior. And instead, the spotlight was locked on a rookie who hadn't played a single down yet. Suddenly, the kid who was supposed to represent the future was being painted as entitled, unprepared, and toxic on national TV. And Ryan's words stung even more because they didn't come out of nowhere. They echoed every criticism that had haunted Shedeur since draft day. Scouts had already labeled him defensive in interviews, saying he got irritated when teams threw trick questions into the playbook. Reports claimed he walked out of meetings angry when challenged. Executives had whispered that the Sanders family circus was too much noise for any franchise to manage. So when Rex blasted him on Get Up, it wasn't a new storyline. It was a loud, public confirmation of what insiders had been whispering for months. That's exactly why the clip exploded across the internet. Within hours, it was on every feed, every sports page, every debate show. Not just a hot take, but the headline of the week. In less than 48 hours, it was dominating First Take, The Herd, and every podcast with a microphone. The debate got heated. Was Rex Ryan being too harsh? Or was Shedeur proving his critics right? Or maybe, just maybe, was this another example of the media targeting a Sanders simply because of his famous last name? But then, the story exploded again. Because this time, the Sanders family itself stepped in. Shedeur's mother, Pilar Sanders, who had stayed silent through all the draft drama and early season struggles, finally snapped. She opened up Instagram and dropped a fiery post aimed straight at Rex Ryan, and she did not hold back. In her post, she called him impotent and cancerous, mocking the fact that he hadn't coached in years and suggesting that his attack on Shedeur came from jealousy over her son's spotlight. That post set the internet on fire. Fans flooded her comments, some cheering her on for defending her son, others saying she'd gone too far. Sports blogs, gossip pages, and even mainstream news outlets picked it up instantly. Suddenly, this wasn't just about football anymore. It had turned into a full-blown cultural spectacle. Because when your mom steps into the ring on Instagram, it's no longer about depth charts or quarterback battles. It's about family versus the establishment. It was emotional, messy, and totally viral. Pilar's response wasn't some quiet note. It was a public declaration that the Sanders family wasn't going to let anyone, not even Rex Ryan, disrespect their name. It had officially turned into a full-blown cultural spectacle. Pilar Sanders' fiery comments didn't calm things down. They blew the whole situation wide open. Her post was emotional, raw, and straight from the heart. A mother defending her son for the world to see. But the moment those words hit the internet, the story stopped being about Shedeur's spot on the Browns' depth chart. It became something way bigger. A family standing up to the NFL's old guard and refusing to back down. Social media went absolutely wild again. Some fans applauded Pilar, saying she did what any mother would do: stand tall and protect her son when everyone else was tearing him down. But others weren't having it, calling her move a mistake that only added fuel to the fire. That's what made her words hit so hard, because they played right into the same narrative scouts and executives had whispered about during draft season: the Sanders family circus. The thing teams had once feared now seemed to be happening in real time, and sports talk shows ate it up. Every network pounced on Pilar's post. Debate panels broke it down frame by frame, headline by headline. The irony? Through all the chaos, Shedeur himself stayed completely silent. No tweets, no interviews, no clapbacks, nothing. As the noise grew louder, his quiet stance became symbolic all over again. Those same crossed arms from the sideline now represented not arrogance, but a refusal to play into the drama. But that silence? It didn't protect him. It only raised more questions. Fans wondered, is he hiding behind his mom's defense? Or is he just being smart by not adding fuel to the fire? Some even said he looked unsure, a young star caught between two worlds, his mom's passion and the NFL's politics. Meanwhile, Rex Ryan? He didn't need to say another word. His rant had already done the job. It dominated headlines, boosted ratings, and reminded everyone exactly why his voice still commands attention. He didn't need to clap back at Pilar. The feud was living on its own. The Sanders family had turned his one TV segment into a national storyline that was way bigger than football. And that's what makes this saga so fascinating. It's not just about a rookie quarterback or a sideline moment. It's about culture versus tradition, media versus players, and new school confidence versus old school toughness. On one side, you've got Rex Ryan, representing that no-nonsense old guard NFL mentality where rookies keep quiet and earn their stripes. On the other, the Sanders family, unapologetic, bold, and unafraid to speak their truth in front of millions. No matter which side fans stand on, one thing's for sure. This feud has officially crossed from sports into pop culture history. So what do you think? Was Rex right to call him out, or did the Sanders family win this round? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more wild sports breakdowns. See you in the next one.